Well, ABC, that certainly did not go as expected, did it? 20,000 dislikes and a 95% dislike ratio, and judging by the comments, thousands of people were less than pleased with your journalistic methods used in this story. Now, I'm not one to evoke an ad populum fallacy, but typically a news story isn't going to garner such universal disdain based on subject matter alone, because as long as coverage is objective and balanced to a degree, no one's going to leave the video super pissed off at the news outlet itself. No matter what the issue is, as long as it's handled in an objective, even-handed manner, it's unlikely to garner a huge amount of vigorous dissension. So really all people want is fair, fact-based, nonpartisan inquiry into issues. But, as you can see, that's clearly what you guys fail to do in this video. But of course, this is a story on Gamergate, so what can you expect other than a one-sided, sensationalistic, unfounded hit piece where gamers are stereotyped, demonized, video games are misrepresented, and where non-gamer feminists are taken as industry experts and every claim they make is accepted without any evidence or scrutiny, and no opposing views are presented. We have seen this enough times to not be surprised by it anymore, but this video is a pretty good amalgamation of everything that is wrong with the coverage of Gamergate and the way the media has portrayed people like Anita and her talking points. So we're going to go over some of my favorite parts of this delightful video. But first, let's talk about the title of the video. The title is How It Feels to Be a Gamergate Target. Well, I can't tell you how it feels to be Anita because, I don't make a six-figure salary being a professional victim. And admittedly, I don't know what it's like to be an extremist bigot who says that women cannot be sexist and black people can't be racist. And also, I don't know what it's like to exploit tragedies that have nothing to do with me or my cause, just so I can try to victimize myself and make myself look good. So yeah, I don't know what it's like to be a Gamergate target, but I can tell you what it's like to be trolled and harassed on the internet and get death threats. And that's something that anyone could tell you, because everyone experiences those sorts of things. You are in a global environment with billions of people, which do include, kids, teenagers, trolls, people who are just there to cause trouble and say dumb things. That is a universal constant on the internet. And 99.9999% of these threats made by online trolls never come into fruition. Everyone knows this. It's pretty clear, considering how frequent they are, that most of them are bullshit. But professional PR charlatans like Anita and Brianna act like this is some kind of exclusive thing to them, and that they are facing legitimate terrorism, and that they are being horrifically and violently victimized. It really is nothing but a cynical ploy in order to garner sympathy from suckers and a sensationalist media that just wants to gobble up a story like this and proverbially vomit into the mouths of the American public, like ABC did today. Anyway, on another note, it has been shown that ABC has removed some of the comments on this video. Now, this isn't really surprising to me at all. I mean, anti-gamergaters and censorship have been longtime BFFs for a while now. I mean, just go to any article from The Guardian. But I really would have expected them to just disable all the comments and ratings entirely, like Anita has done in all her videos, rather than simply singling out a few comments out of the thousands that are pouring in every day. But once they start hitting almost 100,000 dislikes, they're probably going to do that in the future, but we'll see about that. Let's get the video started, shall we?
Violent depictions of women being beaten, raped, and run over by cars.
Wow, ABC, you certainly like to get straight to the point. 3 seconds into the video and already you have blatantly lied. Nowhere in this video do you show an example of rape in video games, especially not in the GTA clip that you're referencing here. Also, you have painted a picture where women are the ones being singled out and brutalized in video games, which is not the case at all. The vast majority of people you kill in GTA and just about any other game are male. Also, you give absolutely no context to this statement in a way that is clearly, blatantly sensationalistic and inflammatory. You could say that about a Quentin Tarantino movie, people getting their heads blown off and women being murdered, and just stating that by itself without any context. So bravo, ABC. 3 seconds into the video, and you already have 3 levels of blatant, repugnant propaganda. Way to come out of the gate strong, ABC. I can already tell this is going to be a rational, even-handed, inquisitive look into the issue.
It's not the movies, it's video games. And now the women calling for change in this multi-billion-dollar virtual industry are facing a very real backlash, including death threats.
First of all, it's funny that you state it in such an innocuous way as change the industry, when in reality what they want is to censor and sterilize the industry for the sake of their political agenda. Like in the example you go on to oh so even-handedly address later in the video about GTA, where you paint this picture that GTA is a game that promotes violence against women, even though 1, everyone is killable in the game, regardless of gender. Number 2, there are not any actual objectives in the story in the game that order you to kill prostitutes or any women whatsoever. Number 3, if you actually look at the story missions and your actual objectives in the game, you are killing nothing but men throughout the whole campaign, hundreds if not thousands of them. The body count is enormous for males in the game, but you don't mention that in the video at all. That's not worth mentioning. But of course, keep in mind that none of these facts stopped feminists from getting GTA 5 taken off the shelves in Kmart and Target in Australia for these bullshit reasons, and even pushed for it in other countries. And this was spearheaded and highly endorsed by Anita Sarkeesian, Brianna Wu, and all these other poor innocent gamergate targets who gamers hate for absolutely no reason whatsoever. Their goal is not to improve the industry or art form. Their goal is to censor and whitewash the games that we all love and enjoy. And so they received a collective fuck you from millions of gamers. The millions of gamers who bought GTA and played it and know what it's about, unlike you, ABC, unlike these feminists. And of course, among the backlash, there are always going to be a few trolls and kids who go too far and send threats. But those people do not even make up a percent of the movement. But these disingenuous hit piece articles continue to pump out demonizing gamers and gamergaters for opposing this politically correct vandalization of our hobby. And it's not the first time that gaming has faced this kind of threat. Jack Thompson tried to do this a decade ago, and the mainstream media, along with gamers, collectively laughed him off the stage into obscurity. And among the ridicule and legitimate criticism that he received, there were sprinklings of death threats. But the media did not flock to his aid because of this. That did not validate his baseless platform and his backwards thinking. But when feminists are involved, oh, it definitely does. We have seen it. It works quite well. Six-figure salaries well. And we have every media outlet, ABC being the latest, that rushes to the front line to fight on the side of censorship and ignorance. And has completely thrown gamers under the bus and refuses to hear our side of the story. So we're not even 15 seconds into the video and already you can see what a disdainable, vile piece of propaganda that it really is. But let's continue.
For Anita Sarkeesian, this is the new normal.
Well, firstly, I find it supremely ironic that she preaches about how women are not damsels in distress, while she feels the need to go around with police protection from what she describes as teens and basement dwellers. I mean, she wears this fear with pride as the persona she wants to display, the professional victim cowering in fear of these oh-so-dangerous gamers. Well, excuse my incredulity in light of the fact that not a single critic or journalist or politician has ever been killed for attacking or criticizing video games. Not one. Richard Dawkins has never felt the need to go around with security protecting him, despite the fact that he's an outspoken critic of religion and has received tens of thousands of death threats, if not hundreds of thousands. And he actually faces a real danger. People do get killed for criticizing religion, as recent events have shown. It's not uncommon. So pardon my skepticism in thinking that this sort of protection is necessary for Anita. And pardon me for thinking that this might just be a PR ploy more so than anything else. And also keep in mind that these officers you're seeing here are campus security that Anita Sarkeesian requested. And every college campus has these. And if you request for them to protect you at a speech, they're going to do it. It happens all the time. This is commonplace. This is not something that is unique to Anita Sarkeesian and does not represent a real credible threat against her. In fact, if you look at men's rights speeches and rallies at college campuses, they almost always have a good amount of security officers there because feminist mobs are always outside the building screaming, and a lot of times they do try to attack them. But you're not going to see these people victimized and vindicated in the media just because they have to have protection. Now, keeping all the stuff I've said in mind, watch this next clip and note the intense, ominous music and the guerrilla-style camera work, which makes it all look as if she is akin to some sort of dignitary in an Eastern European country facing constant threats of assassination or something. Just look at the overblown, unwarranted sense of danger and intensity that they portray this clip in.
On this morning, high alert at Loyola University in Chicago. It's Anita's first speaking engagement since threats of a shooting massacre forced her to cancel her last appearance. All because this media critic dared to criticize something millions of us play every day.
Bravo, ABC. The art of propaganda is alive and well. That is some A-class work.
The harassment became part of what's now known as gamergate. What started as an online spat about the ethics of gaming journalism quickly escalated into a full-blown culture war.
It's interesting the way she derisively refers to it as a quote-unquote spat and doesn't go into any detail whatsoever about the claims made by Gamergate and the evidence they've presented, the impact they've had, and the charities they've supported. But why would a news media outlet be dismissive and hostile towards a movement to expose media corruption? I can't possibly guess why. And it's interesting the way she refers to it as a culture war, because last I checked, wars are a two-sided thing. And if you guys at ABC did any honest research, you would see that Gamergate supporters have received their share of death threats, harassment, and faced immense censorship. In fact, there's a Tumblr page dedicated to showing the harassment that Gamergate supporters have received. You know, people calling for them to be castrated, people threatening to swat them, which is a federal crime, and Gamergate supporters getting sent knives in the mail. But that isn't worth getting covered by the mainstream media. The mainstream media is not going to cover that, you know. It's only bad whenever Gamergate people send death threats, not the other way around.
And a small but hardcore group of gamers resistant to change.
Well, ABC, you got to see firsthand what a quote-unquote small group we really are. It's funny, these same people thought Gamergate would die within a month, but it's been almost 5 months, we're still here, we're not shutting up. There are millions of us who are actively opposing people like Anita Sarkeesian, and it is safe to say that the vast majority, millions of gamers, would not want to see the changes that Anita and her ilk want to bring to gaming. No one wants censorship and whitewashing, especially not in GTA. It's evident by the fact that it's one of the highest selling franchises in existence. We didn't want this quote-unquote change from Jack Thompson, and we don't want it from you either, just because you pin the fancy title of progressive over your form of censorship and claim it's better than the other forms. When in reality, it's actually more hypocritical than the stuff that Jack Thompson was pushing, because at least he was against violence in general. You take a game that is 99% violent against men, and you only care about the 1% that is violent against women, in a blatant display of hypocritical sexism. And you think the only reason why we would oppose you and disagree with you is because we're reactionary, backwards, and xenophobic, and we're just afraid of change? Well, I can only really sum up my response to that with a single image.
But Gamergate doesn't just affect boys playing in a basement. The stakes are much higher than you might think.
Wow. Just wow, ABC. It's funny how even you in this video acknowledge how the video game market makes up hundreds of millions of people all over the world and is extremely diverse, and yet you still want to act like it's 1989 and you can stereotype us all as children and basement-dwelling nerds. This is why Gamergate exists. The mainstream media is so pitifully out of touch with gamers, and you do nothing but condescend and insult us. And you expect us to change the way we do things, and sit here with open arms and open mouths as you piss all over us. And now to my dear viewers, you know why I and so many other people get legitimately pissed off about this. This is the year 2015. How long is the mainstream media going to remove gamers from the conversation about ourselves? How long are they going to look down on us and treat us like garbage?
And what might surprise you, there are now more adult women playing video games than there are teenage boys.
I'm so sick of hearing this misleading bullshit statistic that has been debunked so many times, but people still parrot it around. It's been shown that somewhere around 70% of the market is made up of iPhone and Facebook gamers, and the majority of them are female. And that is what we call the casual market, which is largely made up of non-gamers, people who have no further interest in games other than something they can play in the waiting room or on a subway. Calling these people gamers would be the equivalent of saying that people 15 years ago who played solitaire on their computer while they were bored at work are gamers. When you actually look at consoles and Steam accounts, people play MMOs, and the kinds of people who frequently play games like God of War, GTA, Assassin's Creed, Final Fantasy, and all these other hardcore games, the kinds of games that Anita complains about in her videos, the vast majority of them are male. And that isn't to say that I don't want more female gamers. Hell, I want to live in a world where everyone is a hardcore gamer. That'd be my ideal. Who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't want the industry to be as big as it possibly could be? But I'm not going to sit here and accept these misleading statistics, especially whenever they are being used to bolster your BS agenda. I mean, feminists just love their false statistics. That is their bread and butter. Next, they go on to whine about GTA 5, which I already covered. They completely and utterly misrepresent the game and disregard the overall context and act like it singles out and attacks women when it doesn't at all.
More than half of us are already playing games like this one, Grand Theft Auto 5. But critics say in these virtual worlds, things often take a turn toward the dark side.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect a game about crime to get dark. Also, what do you mean critics? Critics gave this game one of the highest metascores of all time, and it won over 100 Game of the Year awards. Anita Sarkeesian is not a critic. She's a political pundit, and a bad one at that. She doesn't even like video games.
As a player, you can solicit a prostitute, kill her, and if that's not enough, you have the option to run her over.
The sense of violence against women being used as almost background decoration, right?
Once again, killing prostitutes is not the objective of the game. It's not encouraged and it's not necessary. In order to get this footage, Anita or whoever recorded this footage for ABC had to go out of their way to do it themselves so they could then turn around and demonize the game over it. It amazes me how 10 years ago Jack Thompson was ridiculed and disgraced for making these exact same arguments, and only whenever these arguments shifted the focus to violence against women and not violence in general did the media suddenly hop on board. Because, violence is not that big of an issue nowadays. But if you put violence against women, ooh, that's sensationalistic. That gets clicks. That gets views. That gets people riled up. Then all they have to do is take some clips of a woman getting run over in a video game and they can use that to shock their ignorant, easily offended audience. This is what the American media is all about these days. Sensationalism, false indignance, and moral outrage. Fuck everything about this.
In Watch Dogs, she points out how women are murdered to give the hero a reason to chase down a bad guy.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. Your entire objective is to stop them. There's a giant red icon in the center of the screen flashing, telling you to fucking intervene. Look at him. Look at him. Whoever is playing this game is just standing there watching it happen. This is clearly not what you're supposed to do. He's just sitting there. This is a game where you are supposed to stop crime. And when this person fails on purpose, then they turn around and say this game is sexist and promoting violence against women. Fuck you, you lying, disingenuous, duplicitous scumbags. Also, men are put in danger and killed in the exact same way in this game. These are randomly generated missions. And your whole goal in these missions is to stop crime. How are you supposed to do that without showing crime happening? And crime has to have victims. You idiots. What is your complaint? What did the developers do wrong? Oh, I know. We could just have it so only men are killed and victimized in this game. Then it would be perfectly okay. Then there would be zero complaints coming from people like Anita Sarkeesian. I can guarantee for a fucking fact that none of these people would care at all if there were nothing but men getting victimized in the exact same way. Because these feminists and social justice warriors like this do not give a shit about real equality, and that is the truth. And this right here is why gamers who actually have a knowledge of this hobby hate Anita Sarkeesian. We don't hate her because she's a woman or because she's a feminist. We hate her because she is a liar, and you're a bunch of liars for supporting her. And this is why your idealized portrayal of her and your demonization of Gamergate is utter nonsense. And you know, I started this video off calm, but I just cannot take this. This is infinitely more frustrating than Jack Thompson. This is a disgrace to journalism. ABC, you have failed on such a massive level by posting this nonsense. And you know, I'm done. I'm done with this. I'm only halfway through the video, but I think you get the gist of it. I don't think it's necessary to go any further. Of course, they go on to have a segment with Brianna Wu, of course, the woman who was shown to have lied about having to abandon her home because of Gamergate. And then they go on to use this flaccid anecdotal evidence as being indicative of some kind of massive harassment against female gamers. Apparently, they don't know anything about white knights and how female gamers are largely worshipped by legions of male gamers who will do anything for them.
I will never have to worry about having a sufficient party in order to complete raids. Being female ensures that I will have available allies willing to contribute to my success.
People will be more willing to censor their own language in order to make sure I feel more comfortable. In the events one does not censor themselves, there'll be no shortage of men willing to white knight on behalf of my honor.
This list will be less likely to be taken seriously because of its content. We will likely be dismissed as internal misogynists simply because we are acknowledging our benefits instead of focusing on what we think our disadvantages are. However, I know that in creating this video, we will also garner support simply because we are women willing to express appreciation for the benefits available to us instead of playing perpetual victims.
So once again, ABC and Anita simply want to demonize gamers and spread BS propaganda about us and create a false narrative. Is any wonder to any of you at this point why feminists have such a bad reputation, especially among the males of my generation and among gamers? It's stuff like this. There is real sexism in the world. Look at the Middle East, India, China, Africa. Places where women are treated like property. But Western feminists don't see this as a high priority. Instead, they have decided to declare war on gamers, people who are just wanting to enjoy their hobby and lead normal lives. We did not start this culture war, but I can tell you one thing, Anita will be forgotten. Whether it's in a few years or 10 years, but gaming will still be here. Feminists want to tear us down, and their friends in the media have tried really hard to slander and vilify us, but we are way more stubborn than they bargained for. We grind through games that are hundreds of hours long. We endure the most rage-inducing challenges and competition with one another. We are the masters of taking and dishing out the most vile insults. I mean, we have pretty thick skin at this point, and we're pretty damn stubborn. Then these prissy, politically correct divas come along and think they can come in here and intimidate and morally castigate us and make us bend to their will. Well, good luck. And good luck to you, ABC. You just alienated the largest entertainment industry on the planet.